Hello everybody, my name is Michael Schilling and today we'll be going over athletic training budgeting issues and practices. This is for Fresno Pacific University Advanced Athletic Training Administration for Dr. Jim Ave. A little bit about myself and my experiencing with budget. I created an athletic training program at Narragansett High School in Narragansett, Rhode Island. Essentially, when it started, there was nothing. There was no athletic trainer in place. We didn't have a room. My boss was generous enough to donate a golf cart and a bag, and that's how it started. I also managed an orthotic shoe store for the same physical therapy office. I aided in inventory and ordering at the University of Rhode Island, and when I moved to Stevens, I was the head of inventory and ordering. So a little bit about what we're going to go over today. We're going to start out with a budgeting scenario. We're going to go over what is budgeting exactly, what are the different types of budgeting systems, and which one would benefit athletic trainers. Why is budgeting important? Common issues in budgeting for an athletic training program, and how to try and fix these problems. So to start off, we're going to give you a little scenario. Schilling College has undergone a budget cut to their athletic training program. With this budget cut, all programs are forced to cut 20% of their budget that was determined before the school year began. The head athletic trainer will have to justify all their purchases being made to the athletic director, and the recent purchase order will have to be resubmitted. Now, this isn't something that's uncommon, especially at the college level, as the fiscal year ends about June or July. So a lot of programs either quote unquote run out of money or just cut funding to some of the programs. The spring sports typically feel a lot of this pressure. We'll go over a little bit more on this scenario once we go through the types of budgeting and what budgeting is exactly. So, budgeting. According to Ray and Conan, budgeting is a plan for the coordination of resources and expenditures. A budget may also serve as a tool for estimating receipts and disbursements over a long period of time, and a quantitative expression for the athletic trainer's management plan. So pretty much budgeting is not necessarily just an amount of money. It also gives you a quantitative or a number value to how much the program is spending and what it's spending on. Now, some people like Conan and Ray say that it is a plan, so it is giving you an idea and setting forth the way that you want to spend your money. Budgeting does not have a narrow time frame. This is contrary to what most believe. A continuous process of prioritizing, planning, documentation, and evaluation of goals of the athletic training program. Jones and Trenton suggest that budgets are used for the primary tool of planning and controlling sports medicine program. So a lot of the times the higher ups, even higher than the athletic director, look at the amount of money that is spent and what it's spent for, and it pretty much justifies what athletic training program does. So a lot of athletic training programs spend a lot of money on the doctors. So we're supplementary to the doctors, and we help the students see the doctors and justify what they're there for. The other thing that a lot of money in most athletic training programs is put towards is inventory, whether it be tape, TheraBands, or workout equipment, rehab equipment. So most of the time we're in the athletic training room taping or doing rehab with the athletes. There are many types of budgets, and we're going to go over what they are now. The spending ceiling model is known as the incremental model. All purchases can be made that equal the previous fiscal year budget. So essentially, anything that costs more than what we spent last year has to be brought to a higher up. So if the budget was $50,000 last year and we are going over that with our next purchase order, it has to be approved by a higher up. Any item over the previous budget will have to be approved by the program director. That's what I just spoke about. It's normally the most desired model for athletic trainers. After 2 or 3 years, the budget will have to increase due to increased inflation in the medical field. The medical field has a faster rate of inflation over that of just something like a sports program. Footballs do go up in price, but typically they stay around the same price within $1 or $2 for the next year, whereas we can see that tape or other medical equipment such as stim machines, ultrasound machines can exponentially grow up in just 1 year. This is one of those models that we don't like to see, especially in athletic training, and that's spending reduction model. Basically, it's a reduction of the budget. A lot of programs have to go through this, especially at the smaller levels, when funds are up. And the athletic training department seems to always be one of the first ones to have to cut the budget. Basically, we should identify items that could be cut even though the program is not in jeopardy. When beginning the year, you should try and order your bigger items in the first part of the fiscal year to guarantee that you get it. That being said, if it's not a necessity, you might not get it. Or if it's just a want, it's more likely to be denied if you are going through someone like your athletic director for the approval. Now, going on to the next one, we have zero-based budgeting. Every purchase order will have to be reviewed by the higher-ups. This is what I was kind of talking about previously. This most commonly can be combined with the spending ceiling model. So after what has been spent has reached the top or the ceiling, then you would bring this to your higher up. So it can be a little bit of a twist between the two. It has no effect on spending patterns or previous purchases. It doesn't matter how much you've spent before, you still have to bring it. It could be the first PO of the purchase order of the fiscal year. It would still have to be approved by a higher up. In this, you're also forced to rank each item that the athletic trainer program has purchased. So if you are purchasing tape, then that might go ahead of something like a UBE for the athletic training room. Now, if a capital item has broke that you know you would need, you may want to rank that first just to try and get it approved. Fixed budgeting is project expenditures and projected income for the program. So it's how much the program actually makes. It's best for a stable athletic training program, and it's not commonly used in athletic training programs, typically because we don't have any income. The only athletic training programs that I really know about it would be the ones that are used in conjunction with the health center, where they are billing the insurance and they have a sort of income. Variable budgeting is very similar because it will also change due to the income. However, as we stated previously, most athletic training programs do not have an income. So due to the lack of that, it's barely used. However, we'll touch upon it, and the budget changes due to the income. So essentially, if we start out at a $50,000 range and then we only make $40,000, we have to change our budget by 20% to accommodate for that. Lump sum budgeting, I like to think of it like a donation or fundraising. However, it is a little different. A fixed sum of money is presented by an organization that can be used in any way that the program wants. So pretty much it's a lump sum of cash or an influx of cash, and the athletic training department can choose to use it anyway for anything. So if they want that new UBE or that new Whirlpool, they can put the money towards that. However, the athletic trainers would be held accountable for the money. At the end of the day, the higher ups, the athletic director and people like that have no say in what happened to the money. So come the end of the fiscal year, if the money's gone, and then there's nothing that we can do about it. There's also line item budgeting. Line item budgeting is commonly seen in athletic training. It categorizes expenditures, and the money cannot be crossed into other categories. So, if money is set for the physician, and the physician comes in at $5,000 less than we planned, then the money cannot be moved to another category, such as inventory or transportation. The advantage is it's easy to understand and prepare, so most people can read it and understand what we're writing. So when you hand it to the higher ups, they can see, oh, you spent $10,000 on X and $10,000 on Z, and there's no crossover. The disadvantage is the limited flexibility, so you can't cross boundaries. The final one is performance budgeting. It breaks the budgeting down into aspects that the program deems of higher value and allocates funds to these areas. So if we think, first of all, in New Jersey, we work under the physician's license, so the physician would be our number one priority. So we would deem that number one, and that would be the highest value. Number two would probably be rehabilitation or prevention, and we would put tape and rehab equipment and a lot of consumables under this. Each of these aspects would have their own mini budget, so the higher the ranking, the more money that it would go towards it. Alright, let's revisit the scenario. Schilling College used the spending reduction model crossed with the zero-based budgeting. As we talked about previously, they can be intertwined together. So the spending reduction model was reducing the budget by 20%, and that goes across the entire athletic department, with the zero-based budgeting, meaning we would have to run everything by the athletic director. We stated that the last PO had to be revised, so what we would do there is we would rank the items from most important to least important, and we would run it by the higher up in order to see if we could get it approved. This is common in schools, predominantly those are undergoing a budget cut in the athletic training program or in the program at all. I know when I was at Stevens, it was fairly common at this time of the year, now that we're in April, that every coach would have to present a budget and what was remaining and what they were planning on spending the money on. And in order to get it approved, it would have to be in that budget. Alright, some of the barriers here. So budgeting barriers, hiring athletic trainers and their supporting staff. That's huge right now. Athletic trainers are not making a ton of money on average, so trying to get more money for them is something that the NATA is really working at. The National Athletic Trainers Association released a study in October 2015 stating that public schools athletic directors are lacking power to make the hiring and budgeting decisions. Some of the reasoning behind this is teaching hires. So they believe that hiring the athletic trainer will show the school that we are taking the spot or the place of of a teacher. When I was going to that Narragansett High School, it was kind of a fine line that I was walking. I was getting paid by my physical therapy company. However, the school was paying them. This was done so that it wasn't shown that I was taking a teacher's job. The athletic budget was affected. However, it wasn't given a new quote-unquote job. The other reason that they're having trouble hiring athletic trainers right now is shifting money from other budgets, like it goes on the same plane as teaching hires. So trying to take money out of a football program, a baseball program, or even the school itself, it doesn't go over well with the people that are in charge of that. It was hard to get into the high school where the football team was actually one of the highest fundraising schools in the nation. They paid for half of my salary for the first season that I was there just to get an athletic trainer into the school. We continue with that study. About 18 of the 20 schools in the study attributed budgeting concerns to the hiring barrier. It wasn't just because they didn't want athletic trainers in the school, it was because they couldn't afford to put in the extra money. And that's why we're seeing athletic trainers taking these jobs for $2,500, $3,000 for an entire season. Yeah, it's part-time, but it's still not equal to what they're worth to the school. Other schools responded that they run on a bare minimum amount of money necessary to run the program. So this is what I was talking about with the other colleges that I was at, that they really had to budget out every single item that they were purchasing and reasoning behind it. How do we break these barriers? I believe that we break these barriers by educating the public and education for the athletic trainers themselves. Let's start off by educating the public. Athletic trainers improve functional outcomes and specialize in patient education to prevent injury and re-injury. That's a quote right from the NATA about what athletic trainers do. Athletic trainers don't just tape ankles. Athletic trainers are much more than that. We provide preventative services, we rehab the injured, and we're there with them every day. We get to know our athletes. There's something that doctors can't do that we can do. We improvise with what's going on, what we have, and I think that's what makes us the best fit. Education for the athletic trainers. In 2015, the NATA also released a statement that the athletic trainers graduating from an accredited program will be required to obtain a master's degree. I believe they said that this was in 7 years. Yes, 7 years from now, 2015, that athletic trainers will be required to graduate with a master's degree. We will be grandfathered into this, however. Why are they doing it? The NATA is requiring athletic trainers to get their master's degree, become more desirable. They want to put a price tag on us and let them know that we know what we're talking about, and there's an importance behind having an athletic trainer in their school and working with their children and working with the athletes. The cost of us is much cheaper than the cost of one player getting hurt or injured. If we can prevent that, then great, we just saved that school thousands and thousands of dollars. Alright, let's go on to improving budget planning. The first year is the most difficult due to the lack of precedent. So when you're starting off in an athletic training program, trying to figure out how much you're going to be spending on each sport is important. If it's a brand new program, look at other schools similar. I know that there are hundreds of other colleges, hundreds of other high schools in the area that have done this before, have spent the amount of money that you're going to spend, and have a similar amount of teams. Those are some aspects that you want to look at when looking for a certain budget. Always keep a running inventory of all consumable and non-consumable items. So a consumable item would be a Band-Aid or the tape itself in general. So in order to get a good running inventory, keep track of how much you have and how much you have used. And if you really want to get a good idea, break it down by either sport or by semester or season. In the fall, I know a lot more schools have football or have higher impact sports. so they may use a little bit more tape. However, some programs have basketball teams that tape their ankle prophylactically, and that'll cause them to have more tape. So being conscious of what's going on is important there. Calculate the amount of consumables that were used the previous year. If it's not the first year program and you have this written down, it will help you figure out how much money you have to spend the following year. Consult with multiple vendors to get a price expectation. Don't just go into it knowing that you're going to go with Henry Schein or, oh, we use Johnson & Johnson tape in college, so that's what I'm going to use now. That's how a lot of them get you to come back to them. It's important that you do save money where you can, but if you're not comfortable using a product, ask. Call the vendor up, say, hey, I'm interested in using your product. I've never used it before. Can you send me a sample box? Most of them will do it just to try and get you to be a customer. Always negotiate bulk pricing. The more you buy, the more you save. If you know that last year you used 100 boxes of Coach tape, then buy close to that. You don't have to buy exactly that amount. You can buy 80 boxes. And then the next time you buy 50 boxes, depending on how much you're using every single time. Improving the budget continued. Maintain organization. This is extremely important when you're working with more than one athletic trainer. Having a program that everybody has access to, such as a Google Drive or Excel, and every time that someone goes into the inventory and takes something out, can write it down or deduct it. Just it's easier than handwriting something and putting on a sticky note where it gets lost. Most programs, most of the EMRs and electronic medical records, such as ATS, the athletic training system, will have an option to keep track of inventory. So try and start somewhere like that. Some more budgeting issues at the workplace. Mezzaroli et al. Completed a study on the barriers of hiring athletic trainers in high school. She concluded that athletic directors would like to employ more athletic trainers. However, they are bound by the decisions of the superintendent and the school board. It is important that these decisions get placed in people's hands that know exactly what we do as athletic trainers. When I was working with the Narragansett High School again, and we're going to keep going back to this just because it was such a brand new program, it was the start. It was actually the football coach that got me in there. But in order to improve my standing at the high school, I had to go into the town hall and talk with the superintendent of schools and give a presentation on what athletic trainers actually do, how they help the programs build and improve the safety of the school. Within the first 3 weeks of me being there and after having this meeting, my contract was extended through the full year, and I was given about 20 to 30 more hours at the end of each season. So it is important to teach the superintendents and the school board in general just how important having an athletic trainer is. Some more budgeting issues. Issues include hiring an athletic trainer and removing a teaching job. As we were speaking about previously, it is hard to get a new position, whether at college level or at the high school level, because you do get in the fight, especially with high schools, because there's a lot of teachers unions, and some colleges have it too, where they believe that the money that they're using for that is theirs and they should have another teacher to benefit these students rather than benefit the student athlete. As we previously spoke about as well, the superintendent and school board did not see the importance of the athletic trainer, so teaching them by having a meeting or something similar to that is also beneficial. One of the solutions that I saw, but was shot down by the NATA, was high school mandates. When looking at the amount of athletic trainers in general, if every single high school in the United States mandated an athletic trainer, there'd be something like 6,000 extra athletic trainers to fill the rest of the secondary schools as well as professional athletics. That being said, that's unfeasible. There's no way that athletic trainers can be in every single school unless there was an influx of athletic training students. So in order to do that right now, I believe that at least part-time or at every event there should be some high school mandates. According to the NATA in 2015, there are no states that mandate athletic trainers in high school sports. I know that some states, such as Rhode Island, are actually trying to pass legislation in the next upcoming vote to mandate athletic trainers in all high schools. That being said, I don't know if it's going to pass because what we were talking about previously and the amount of athletic trainers that are available to fill those roles. Same thing goes with Arkansas. They're also trying to pass legislation, but that was following the death of certain student athletes. They are saying that these deaths may have been prevented if an athletic trainer was present on the field when the incident occurred. So let's see, how have I used the budgeting principle? At Narragansett High School, I created the athletic training program. I believe that this is the best way to show how to use a budget. I had to set a budget to create a room and a budget for items, disposable and the capital items. Capital items are items that last longer than 1 year. In order to get approval, I had to the zero based and run everything through the athletic director. The athletic director had previously purchased about a box of tape, 2 or 3 boxes of pre-wrap, and items such as that. However, we had to increase all of the items because there was now an athletic trainer present. Setting up a room was a little bit more difficult because number one, there was no space. Same thing as the taking a job from a teacher. Now, how would I get the room for a room? It was initially on the back of a golf cart that I started, but was able to move into almost like a little closet at the back of the weight room. There was a little section that was sectioned off where we put a table, a nice little lockbox, and then just a small little desk or chair. The second way that I've used these principles is for budgeting for an orthotic office. This was a little bit more difficult because I had to take every single shoe box and count them. There were well over 1,000 boxes of shoes. Hand count them, price them out, and then determine the value of all items. We had to then develop a plan and an initiative to sell them. There were some shoes that were well over 1 to 2 years old. Now, when you sign a contract with Asics or Mizuno, after 1 year, you can then advertise a sale or they become yours because you've paid them off. So what I did was I took all the shoes older than 1 year and put them on eBay and Amazon, and within 2 to 3 weeks, we sold about $20,000 worth of shoes, and we used the money to purchase a point of sale system, a POS system, in order to better monitor our inventory and set forth a good budgeting scheme. After that, we had 2 departments to sell. We had the normal brick and mortar building and then our online department. So it did help us, and it made it a little bit more difficult to set a budget because the unknown, the X factor in the sales of the online variety. In conclusion, zero-based and fixed budgets are the most commonly used in athletic training. The best ways to get benefit and out of your budget is to educate the public on the benefits of athletic trainers. Always stay and manage athletic training programs inventory and the history of purchases. Now for some questions for you guys to answer. How have you used budgeting in athletic training? What models have you used? Did you find this presentation helpful? What will you use from this presentation in your budgeting going forward? I hope everybody enjoyed this presentation, and if you have any questions, feel free to post on the forum and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their day. And here are the resources.